welcome to the last video of this Getting Started session. You made it all the way through. If not, I would recommend you to watch the other parts first, because this video is simply just a wrap up of saying like, okay, what other functionalities do we have, mainly in the settings, what kind of users are in there, etc. But the actual functionalities of Alumio are better explained within the videos prior to this one. However, if you've already seen those, welcome to the last chapter. So the entity schemas were already mentioned, which is where you can define like the identifiers of the data that comes in. Users were not mentioned yet. And users is where you can see what kind of users are within the system. We have two different tastes for the roles of the user, which is the user, which means that it's only able to view things. This is very simple for someone that might be not that technical, but still want to see like the logs, see if a task has failed or anything like that. That is possible for a user. However, we also have the administrator, and the administrator is possible to push all of the buttons. Other things we have, which was mentioned before, is the environment variables. And the environment variables are to store mainly like client secrets, tokens, those kind of things you would like to encrypt, and also the URLs of all of the other systems. Then we also have health checks. Health checks are mainly used, let's say if there's a certain task that is stuck, you can repair those using those tools as well. The scheduler was already mentioned, which is used for pulling in certain information with an automated process of how often you will pull this information in. Then we also have the audit trail, which was not mentioned yet, which is where which user was at which moment, and which kind of handling, to keep kind of track of where which kind of user was at. And maybe if something is broken or something was added by a certain user, and checking like what happened where at what moment. Then we also have the API keys, and the API keys are often mistaken by saying like, okay, this is where I store my API key of my ERP system and my eCommerce system and my other system I'm trying to connect. No, that's not exactly these API keys. These are API keys to talk to the Alumio backend. So everything I did here and also in the previous videos on this dashboard was actually underlying an API call towards the Alumio backend. You can also make those API calls yourself by creating one of those keys and then using those keys to do that. Other things you can do with those API keys are, for example, if you have a certain income configuration, you would export those. So let's say you make a certain export of multiple configurations, you will get information looking like this. So we can open that. You will get a JSON schema of saying like, okay, this is how a configuration looks like in Alumio. This you can also import using the API keys. So also as final tab within the information where the Open API schema is fully defined, we can also show a few extra information. For example, the IP address, the version of Alumio, if there's a certain webhook or HTTP proxy, how is the URL looking like of that information where it would have to be sent to. What I can also mention about the IP address is that the IP address is not shared between any of our customers. So were you to purchase Alumio, you will get a standalone server with your own IP address, and it's not possible to access any of our other customers' data or anything like that. However, I think that I can mention, let's say that there's a production environment and a staging environment, then those two servers will actually share the same IP address and the same server, but that is the only one that would share that. So that is to wrap it up with the full overview of the Getting Started session of Alumio. Of course, if there's any questions, feel free to contact support or any of the sales personnel that you were connected to before, maybe send this link by. And I would like to wish you a very pleasant day.